Here with me exclusively is FBI Director Kash Patel. He was also at that roundtable the president held this afternoon, which I couldn't stop watching. Director Patel, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We're going to get to this bust of this gambling ring in a moment, but Governor Pritzker and others are creating these apps and databases to track ICE agents. Is there any movement in the administration to pursue, prosecution or charges against individuals who are impeding law enforcement to that capacity?
Hey, Laura, it's great to be with you. And absolutely. And because of the power of President Trump and the team that he has built, not just in the public sector, in the government sector, but the private sector, he and our attorney general have been able to go to these application companies and have these apps actually deleted and permanently removed. That's the immediate solution. But if these people continue to endanger the lives of law enforcement, you bet this FBI is going to chase every single one of them down. No one is allowed to touch a cop on my watch, and no one's going to touch a cop on our watch. And on the off chance that they do or participate in a scheme via an app or otherwise that does so, they will find themselves in handcuffs, just like so many of those that have tried to hurt law enforcement in the past. But now law enforcement is so well respected thanks to President Trump's leadership and the establishment of this Homeland Security Task Force. The American people are seeing what cops can do when you let them be cops.
What do you think Governor Pritzker's motivation is here? I mean, he's lying when he says that ICE is just indiscriminately picking up anyone who has brown skin or just because they look a certain way. That's not happening. But he repeats that over and over again, along with the Hitler and the Holocaust references and so forth. What do you think his goal here is ultimately? You've been watching this for years.
Politics. It's just politics. Having to spend most of my time in D.C., you see that people will make political pot shots and go on the fake news and try to drown out the facts, which you highlighted, some of the great work of this Homeland Security Task Force, because they have Trump derangement syndrome. They want clean streets. They want a safer America. They want our kids to be free from the savages of this criminality that has drowned our country these last 4 years. But they just don't want President Trump leading the charge to do it. And that's how superficial and shallow these guys are. But thankfully, the FBI doesn't work for Pritzker or any one of these other politicians. We work for the American people, and we're going to be on the streets like we've been on the streets in places like Memphis and Virginia and Chicago and St. Louis and so many other places, Dallas and New York, where we're getting the job done. Remember, this FBI has arrested 28,000 violent felons this year alone. That is double from the same time period last year. And that's just simply results from law enforcement, state and local, being led by this FBI to get after this problem.
Well, now we found out that former Chicago mayor, who would have thought that she would have come back, but Lori Lightfoot is teaming up with other attorneys to launch something called the ICE Accountability Project. Director, watch this.
We want to unmask the ICE agents, the CBP agents who are committing crimes in our city. We have an absolute right under our Constitution to be able to document what's happening. Every single one of those agents, height, weight, hair color. We have a right to compile that information and put together a profile. We believe that they are committing crimes and it needs to be investigated.
Director Patel, at a time when threats against agents is up like 1,000%, what can be done here with what they're launching?
The good news is they don't have any evidence of any crimes being committed by law enforcement. It's the same Pritzker grab bag of politics. They want to throw out these epithets and think they'll land with the American people, but they're not landing. The men and women in federal law enforcement and ICE and FBI and everywhere else, they are so supercharged by this administration's prioritization of law enforcement and backing the blue and giving them the funding and resource that they need that we are shutting down actual criminality. And the only thing that the Democrats and these crazy liberals have is this paper tiger, and they want to create a fake piñata to go after. But here's the thing, the American people aren't going to swing at that because they care about safety for their kids, their schools, their communities, and that's what President Trump's delivering.
Everyone I know in D.C. who goes out regularly is so happy. I mean, they might, even if they don't like Trump, they just like what's happened in D.C. Ditto in Memphis, and it would continue if this was allowed. I mentioned this in the Angle, Director Patel. U.S. forces continuing to strike these drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean and now in the East Pacific. So what is the FBI doing for its part to track those on U.S. soil who would have received those shipments, given the intel that I know we're learning from these?
We are taking them down. Just look at what we've done in these 7-8 short months that we've been in charge here. We've seized 1,900 kilograms of fentanyl, enough to kill 125 million Americans. We've seized something like 50,000 kilos of cocaine. That's just the FBI, not the task force, not other agencies at the DOJ, just the FBI. We're working with the military and the Secretary of War and the intelligence communities to track and reverse engineer where these drugs are supposed to be and stopping them not only at the source, but the destination. And then we are arresting every single person in between that the Secretary of War doesn't annihilate in the open ocean to make sure that our communities are safe and free of this poison that is killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. We have been over this with our entire interagency partner working group, and it is being borne out in the meeting you saw today at the White House, the results.
We've been covering all the out-of-control Antifa protests in places like Portland for months now. And we exposed this safe house last night that's just a 2-minute walk away from the ICE facility. Is the FBI looking into the funding of all of these kind of support groups and networks that are making this a constant disruption and threat to ICE possible?
I'm glad you asked that. One of the cornerstones of my leadership at the FBI has been simple. Follow the money, not just for narco-terrorism, not just for international terrorism, not just for human traffickers, but follow the money for everything. And what we've done is built out an enterprise network investigation using law enforcement and search warrants to go out and trace who's funding these people, because it doesn't happen automatically and overnight. It is organized, and we are going to start charging and arresting people who funded these Antifa groups and other groups like Antifa because they are domestic terrorists, and we will treat anyone who participates in that scheme as such.
And, Director, I want to turn to this massive mafia-linked NBA gambling ring. That was so out of pocket. Like, that surprised me today. You announced it today, 2 operations, Nothing But Net and Royal Flush, they were called. It almost kind of sounds like a movie script. So Miami Heat, their guard Terry Rozier and former player Damon Jones involved. Also, Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups, dozens of others arrested in connection with this. What do the American people need to know about this? And sports betting, poker, the mafia involved? What do we need to know?
It's simple. We follow the money. And look, while the NBA is a piece of this, they are just a piece of that. And what the American people should know is this FBI has no business in being the morality police. We are the police and the enforcement of the laws. If you break the law, we're coming for you, whether you play in the NBA, coach in the NBA. And these individuals got in bed with La Casa Nostra and 4 of the 5 major crime families in New York City to create gambling empires, to rob people of their money, to extort people, to commit acts of wire fraud, to rig games and poker games and basketball games just so they can make a few extra bucks. And then they had the protection of the mafia in New York around this country so that they could continue the scheme to fleece innocent victims of tens of millions of dollars. That's what the FBI and the American people need to understand, that we showcase today a nationwide takedown of over 30 individuals involved in this scheme. And we are doing it because they committed acts of illegality. It has nothing to do with legal gambling, and it has everything to do with those in positions of power in places like the NBA getting in bed with La Casa Nostra and committing acts of extortion, fraud, money laundering, and wire fraud, and so many other crimes. And this investigation, by the way, today, this massive takedown that the FBI led in multiple jurisdictions, coordinating arrests across dozens of cities, is just the start. This investigation is very much ongoing. And as I said at the news conference in New York today, if you didn't do anything wrong or illegal, there's nothing to worry about. And so when people start chirping at us that we're coming after them for sports betting and the like, they're sounding to start like Governor Pritzker, who's just looking for a pot shot on TV.
How long has this investigation been going on? Did an informant tip you off?
Well, I can't get into the nature of how we got onto this, but it's been going on for some time. As you can imagine, ferreting out a system where they literally had scanners at the poker tables, where they literally had professional athletes in the NBA walk off the court so their proposition bets could be met, is a coordinated scheme with La Cosa Nostra and the individuals that we arrested today. And it's been going on for some time. And we are going to continue to work this investigation and those that have been arrested today to make sure that illegal gambling empires embedded with the La Cosa Nostra are brought down, whether they're in the NBA or anywhere else.
Yeah, down the street. By the way, this was so wild. Stephen A. Smith, the sports commentator, suggested that this was revenge from the president for all the kind of left-wing activism of the NBA. Your response to that, 15 seconds.
I'm the FBI director. I decide which arrests to conduct and which not to conduct. That may be the single dumbest thing I've ever heard out of anyone in modern history, and I live most of my time in Washington, D.C. It's right up there with Adam Schiff. We arrest people for crimes.
All right. Director Patel, wonderful to have you on tonight. Thank you very much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.